Hey, what's up? What's up? Welcome to episode two, even though this is a different log. I'm a crazy person. I like categorizing all our different episodes as different things. So, Ahsan Chronicles, episode two. It's not just me. Got Sharpie Charlie, got Tarek. How's it going, show bros?
What's going on, man? Glad to be here.
Happy to be here, y'all.
Hated we missed the last time around. So
Yes.
The energy seems a little low here, boys. What's going on? Anybody would
Well,
think City blew a 2-0 lead yesterday. Looking at the general energy on the
It's
street.
really a matter of being calm, being really reflective right now, not getting too high, not getting too low. Just trying to stay even keel.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That doesn't, I got to be honest with you, that's not really what the job of a YouTuber is. The job of a YouTuber is to be a knee-jerk dickhead as
Stuck in
often
this
as
job.
you
Yes.
can be.
Stuck.
Yeah.
So-
We are.
that's why we're not on 100,000 people yet. If we just like he said, we just all
Yeah.
knee jerk reaction. It'll be
I've
just
tried
Go
it.
bridge it
I've-
up.
I've tried
there you
it.
go. There you
I've
go.
hopped on a couple of YouTubers and the channels where there's like 8 of them and they're just like going back and forth. It stresses me out. I get anxiety. I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, what are you saying of it? Do I take serious? What of it do I laugh at? Do you take any of this serious? And then one of them will slip that one person jumped from one club to another a couple years ago because of a bet and stuff. It's been very unserious moments in some of my experiences on YouTube. So I'm dipping my toe back into it recently, but in our own way, in our style. I'm just gonna host the bitches where I'm gonna bring fun people on, but they're gonna know the energy's not that chaotic. Club World Cup watch party. Check that out. And we never even got
I like it.
you saying anything. We just hopped in. We want to welcome our most dope, amazing guest, one of the co-hosts of a preeminent Man City podcast. I know he doesn't really enjoy when you heap roses onto him, but god damn it. Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
No,
right
give
now.
me the roses.
Give 'em all.
Can we say the hold on.
Yes.
The preeminent
Everybody
City podcast.
everybody knows the vibes. It's
Thank
the one
you.
pod where they're like, hey yo, we gotta raise our prices, and people are just like, take more money, in fact. I don't care.
What's inflation?
This
Who
is
cares?
9320s. Ahsan Naeem, how's it going, homie?
I'm all right. I'm really good. I think it's a good idea for me to do this stream before we do our review of the game tomorrow, because I think that I can maybe smooth out the rough edges
Yeah, and
of
if you
what
want to say
yesterday
anything crazy,
was.
please
Before
just go
I,
wild. If you want to try, put your YouTuber hat on, and you just want to wild out, feel free. I will drop this episode. I will just no, I'm not even gonna edit. I will just straight upload it.
Wait. Did you not record the bit before we started recording where I was talking about Kyle Walker?
Well,
Because you can just put
I
that in.
mean, I can. I wasn't going to. Just because I hit record doesn't. I don't know. I edit our episodes pretty well. Where if I don't want to get our guests in trouble exactly, and I feel like maybe that's a take. Or actually, I'm gonna tell because I'm gonna cut this part out probably. What I was going to do is I was going to use that as a teaser, but not put it in the episode.
I like it. I like it. You can do that too.
And that's what I'm basically planning on doing. I'm like, guys, there's gonna be some heat in here, and everyone's gonna be freaking out. And that part never pops up in the episode. They're gonna be like, what?
Exactly. We'll be really
Super
zen
chill.
for the rest of the episode.
He was gonna use you to get to those 100,000
Work smart,
subscribers.
Work smart, not hard.
They're gonna like, oh my god, did you hear?
Cooking.
Just get on. Wait, I didn't even hear it. And then they'll be too busy to just actually.
They'll be having a
unsubscribe.
good time. It's a sign. It's great. Oh wow, yeah, we kind of had our moments about the game yesterday, and it was interesting. But I want to talk grand scheme. We have you here. We have plenty of questions to go through. You're coming monthly. We don't have to get to all of it. I try to put it in a decent order where there's like ebb and flows. This was a good one to start though, because it's your
Hit me.
tweet, which is The quiet part they won't talk about isn't money. It's that Pep is the best ever. They're witnessing sporting history, a legacy being built in real time, and they don't want to acknowledge it.
Facts.
Is
Facts.
it just as simple as that? As
100%. 100%. I think the legacy of modern English football or Premier League football is wrapped up in the success of Alex Ferguson, the old United manager. And I think that one of the issues that the British establishment have with Guardiola is that a guy who in Ferguson, who they put on a pedestal for so long as being the greatest ever, Guardiola turned up and destroyed every single record that Ferguson had set within 18 months, 2 years. And they don't like that. The British media establishment does not like the idea of Pep Guardiola at Manchester City doing what he's done. Had he taken over at Man United, nobody would talk about money.
Yep.
He'd still have spent the same amount of money, probably more because their squad was worse when he came in, but they would never have spoken about money. They talk about money because Pep is destroying Ferguson's legacy and because he's doing it at a club that is not considered a traditional big club.
Yeah, you guys want to get in here? I don't want to.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I think again, it's you got to protect the legacy of Sir Alex Ferguson, and so in order to do that, you have to disparage what Pep has done. I think it makes perfect sense. So let's find a reason why Pep has done what he's done, other than he's just an amazing, probably best of the world manager. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense to me.
And I think the other thing is that, and it's something I find quite interesting. It's quite deeply, I think, ingrained within British culture, right? That I don't know if you've noticed, if you look at the way that the British media talk about football, the Premier League in general, it's a very negative discourse, right? It's almost as if they're embarrassed that they have the strongest league and the best players and the best managers. And there's a kind of constant need to over intellectualize what the Premier League has become. And if you contrast that with, if you look at La Liga when Guardiola was there and Mourinho was at Real Madrid, and Barcelona and Real Madrid were the two best clubs in the world, La Liga put its chest out and was proud of the fact that they had the best two teams in the world and the best two coaches, and they were the best in the world. If you go back even further, back to when Italian football dominated European football, the Italians had their chest out all the time. They were proud of their football. They didn't give a shit about scandal, cheating, all of those things. They all existed, probably more so then than they do now. But they didn't really talk about it because they were, they protected their league, and it's an entertainment product, right? And it's for your people. And so if it's doing really well, then it made sense that it was reflected like that in their media. In England, it's completely different. We love to build things up to knock them down. It's a cultural thing. We do it in every kind of aspect of British society, and the kind of tabloid newspapers have always been at the center of that. And what's happened in football is that what we consider to be the tabloid nature of the media in football, it's kind of spread right across the, into the broadsheets, the Guardian, the Times, the Independent, the Athletic. It doesn't really matter. Everything is driven by the kind of tabloid nature of scandal and sensationalism. And that's not to say that we shouldn't talk about racism or homophobia in the Premier League, or we shouldn't talk about financial issues inside the Premier League. That's not the point. But the point is, have a balanced coverage of your product. And we don't have in the last 2 or 3 years, we've not had a balanced coverage of the product. And it's twofold. It's one, it's the Guardiola effect, because Pep at City means City are the most successful club in England. And in England, nobody wants to legitimize that because of FFP or the scandal that has surrounded City. And so what I think they don't realize is they're not delegitimizing City, they're delegitimizing the entire league. If you slap the most successful club in the last decade with 115 charges, and you make a public song and dance about that, how does that not damage the credibility of the product that you're selling? Of course it does. That's something that it's very rare that you would find a league operating in that manner over these particular subjects, because we're not talking about bribing referees or doping players. Yeah, we're talking about the nuances of accounting. Literally, we're just talking about the nuances of accounting. So the whole kind of negativity around Pep has widened. It's become a negativity around the league, and I can't help but feel that so much of that is just driven by City's success. I don't think that if Man United and Arsenal had had the success that City have had in the last 5 years, I don't think we'd be having these conversations about financial controls in the league or any of that sort of stuff. Because look, in the end, financial controls should always begin and end with the idea, can you afford it? Yeah. Are your pockets that deep? If your pockets are that deep, there is no problem. That's the law of capitalism tells me that if my pockets are deep enough, I can build whatever I want, wherever I want. I buy the land and I'll build it. Nobody can say anything to me. That's literally the market forces in capitalism. And notionally, in football, what we've done is we've decided, actually, even though all the way through the history of English football, there's always been a club or two clubs with deeper pockets than everybody else. Now, the club with the deepest pockets, we don't like it. We don't like them. We don't like their deep pockets. So therefore, now we're not going to let people have deep pockets. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Has
I just want
that?
to get in.
Oh, go
I
ahead,
would just
Charlie.
say this. I'm going to simplify it even more than what Ahsan just said. I think it's about, it gets down to the color of the skin owner, like the color of the skin of the owners, right? If they were of a whiter hue, I don't even think you have any issue, because when Man U spends X amount of billions of pounds and it has the highest net spend in the last 10 years or whatever, nobody cares. Their owners are white Americans. You look at Chelsea, right? I mean, you go from Russian oligarch and criminal to now American billionaire, and, we know billionaires are all terrible. Like, nobody cares. But because the owners happens to be of a darker shade than usual, I feel like that does add to it. It's like, oh, it's a state-owned club. It's yada yada yada. But in reality, money is money. And if one club can do it on the other side of Manchester, why can't the others? And if one side has better investment and better strategy and decides to truly invest in the product from the ground up, women, men, academy, boys, girls, they're doing it better. And I don't think over there in Britain, they can handle that. And the last thing I'll say is that what you said about the culture of building things up to break it down, that's very American as well. Like what you said, I'm like, oh, this happens in America too. We see it in every sport. You have a dynasty, and then you find a reason to knock down the dynasty. You have an incredible player who wins multiple MVPs,
Yeah.
and now that player has to fall. Like it. Nobody wants to have a good story, and I guess negative press sells, right? Negative clicks, negative attention gets clicks, and that's a
100%.
huge problem. But that's life, sadly.
Yeah. One thing I'd say, it's an anecdote I've used a lot over the last 10 years. Arsene Wenger, not long after Abu Dhabi bought City, because one of the things that happened is within a year or two of Sheikh Mansour buying City, inside of football, it became very clear that they were serious, that these guys had turned up and that they were like, they're they're a serious outfit with a lot of money who are going to do things properly. And Arsene Wenger said at the time, he said, the problem is not money. The problem is money and ideas. And I think that that's the root of why City have excelled and why it bothers so much of the other Premier League top six ownership, is because if you're United or you're Arsenal or you're Liverpool, forget about where their owners come from. You exist in a place where you have so much more money than everybody else that you can be shit for 3 years. Doesn't really make any difference. Man United have been a joke every year for the last 10 years, and yet every summer they break a world transfer record and they sign one of the top players in the world. You know why? Because they don't need ideas. Because their platform that they're on is so much higher than everybody else. It doesn't really matter. And what Wenger was saying then was, these guys have arrived and they've not just got deep pockets, but they've got ideas. And these ideas are, in the end, what we won't be able to compete with. And that's what's happened. You know, the investment that City have made, the Americans don't want to make that. You know, they don't want to, they want to put the least amount in and get the most amount out. Whereas the culture coming out of Abu Dhabi is, we want to make a solid investment that builds over a decade, over 15 years, over 20 years. And at the end of it, we have one of the preeminent football clubs in the world and the best facilities in the world, and we're just best in class.
They take
And that
pride
bothers me.
in
And that-
what they have in every stage. They they want, from the moment you walk in, like, if they bring friends and family to the city grounds, everything is beautiful, everything is perfect. Every person who works for City, they're delightful and they're nice and they're happy to be there. There's just something about that energy, and I understand for people who have been rooting for these traditional top teams who generally have a toxic general fan base and mindset. I can see where, when you look at how City moves and even all the videos on social media and everything seems so it's happy and fun and we're the bad guys in Ted Lasso, I could see why that would feel nefarious, why that would feel evil. It's just worked too well.
But you can't, like, so I kind of agree with you, but I don't think that they knew. Like, you can never know when you begin to make investments how they will turn out, right? You can't predict a football game. You can't predict a league season. You can't predict. All you can do is hire the best people to do the best jobs they can possibly do. End of conversation. And like, I think the skin color of the owners, I, I've always framed it slightly differently, in that the way I look at it is like this, right? If Jeff Bezos bought Arsenal and did every single thing that City's owners have done, I guarantee you the British media would say that's the best run football club in the world, and that is the blueprint for any top club in the world. And so the question of why would Bezos get that treatment, but City's owners get a different treatment, it's obvious. And I know a lot of people who will say, well, it's not about the skin color. It's about the fact that, you know, he's a sheikh and that's a dictatorship and it's not really his money. It's like nation state money and blah, blah, blah. Fine. I can almost get behind the kind of the politicking of feeling as though somehow that kind of doesn't feel right. But then I always say, well, you show me a billionaire, I'll show you a fucking criminal, right? Like, I'm sorry, but the idea that there's a dude sat in Boston on 15, 20 billion and he's not made really morally reprehensible decisions to get himself there, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
I wanted
Tarek,
to
you were going to
ask.
say something?
Oh yeah. I was just gonna ask really quickly, because you made a comment, something to the effect of, historically there have always been clubs with more money than others, and it's never been a problem up until now. And I wanted to know from your perspective, because obviously we're all Americans, how much of that has been the impact of the increase in American ownership in the Premier League, in Premier League clubs, because our sports here in America, for those who may be listening from Europe or whatever that don't understand, our sports are very much opposite of the traditional capitalistic approach that we as a country and as a nation embrace. We are very much about, we all want to be the same. We want to give everybody the same opportunity. We give the worst team the number one draft pick to try to increase them. We do all of this stuff to force and manipulate a competitive balance. And so
Is
when
it
you
about
have,
is it
go ahead.
about competitive balance though, or is it about controlling the athletes? Like,
It's probably all of the above. It's probably all
right?
of the above, which is probably hard to say when you see a Shohei Otani get $700 million contract, right? That's kind of hard to say when you're giving somebody $700 million, but yet you want to control the players. But I agree with you, and it just goes to show, if they're willing to give this man 700 million, what could have been, right? But um, I just look at even using MLS as an example, right? Because it's soccer, it's football. It is very much, oh, we don't want to have a big club. We don't want, say, a LAFC or a LA Galaxy or whoever else, name your club. We don't want them to become so great that they dominate and, quote unquote, no one else has an opportunity. And I know we've seen this in the potential rise of the Super League, right? Where, hey, we've got these clubs that are already kind of locked in. We want to lock them in so there's no risk, because it's about a business, right? It's about business opportunity. There's no risk to me as an owner of my investment. And when there's no risk, I don't need to put in any additional capital because whatever I put in is safe. And so, do you think that as American ownership has risen in Europe as a whole, but particularly in the Premier League, because we're talking about that, that you've seen that approach being taken and it is impacting even the sentiment of the British public? Because, like you said before, we never had an issue when Man U was the top of the world and nobody had a complaint. When Arsenal were doing their thing, when Liverpool were doing their thing, no one had a problem. But now that City is the one that's doing it, all of a sudden there's this collective uh, irritation.
Well, look, I think you're to answer the question very simply. Definitely, like the big influence has been the Glazers, Stan Kroenke, and John Henry, right? Because Arsenal, Liverpool, and United historically are probably the three kind of internationally renowned biggest clubs in England. And those three ownerships, they the root of all of this is Champions League money, right? So the Champions League money is what allows those clubs to stay ahead. And so for as long as there was like four big clubs, yeah, it's fine because it's cool. We all get our Champions League money every year, and then we have like our mini league at the top, and we fight over who finishes where. And even back then, I remember Rafa Benitez, the Liverpool manager, basically complaining that their club, the owners, weren't prepared to invest as much as United's owners were, which is why United always won the league and Liverpool struggled so much because they just couldn't buy the players that United wanted to buy. And so absolutely the issue became when the American owners who thought they bought a sure thing suddenly find themselves in a league where Sheikh Mansour arrives and Abramovich arrives, and you know the sand begins to shift slightly. So maybe the best way to look at this is the idea of financial fair play when it was invented. So when UEFA first began discussing financial fair play, right around European football, it had one aim, and that one aim was to tackle debt. So what it wanted was it wanted clubs to be debt free, and it didn't want owners to put clubs in a position where they were saddled with debt, and then the owners can't afford the debt, and they asset strip the club and they walk away. And there's plenty of stories in and around English football. Portsmouth are a great example. QPR are a great example of clubs where owners have come in, unsustainably spent money, right? And then asset strip the club. Now, that was the original aim of financial fair play. Then what happened is the traditional big clubs, they begin talking amongst themselves and they go, we're going to find a way to stop Roman Abramovich. Because imagine if another dude like Abramovich turns up, we have a problem. And then Mansour turns up. And so Mansour turns up, and very quickly, those rules, they get driven out within 18 months of City being bought. And the rules have completely changed. They're no longer about debt. In fact, they don't even talk about debt anymore. It's about owner investment. And the whole language around investment in football completely changes. Everybody begins talking about level playing fields. What are you talking about? Show me a sport where there's a level playing field. That's not how these things work. Like, that's just the reality of, you got the best trainers, you got the best facilities, you got the best equipment. You're going to have an advantage, a sporting advantage. That's not cheating. It's just the reality of the world. And yet, in England, what happened is the American owners, and they've continued to do this, they've lobbied so much and so hard. And in the end, when they couldn't change what was happening in the league, they tried to do the Super League. They tried to do circumvent the league in its entirety and go, well, we'll create our own league, which will be much more democratic, like the American league is. It's like, fuck off, man. It's like I always think about, the Chris Rock joke about, like, the difference between rich and wealthy. Like the basketball player is rich, and the dude who's writing his fucking check and the rest of the team's check, he's wealthy. This is what I'm talking about, right? That these dudes at the top, they're so wealthy, they just want to stay rich, right? They want no risk. They want low risk, high return. And so in English football, because of City, because of Mansour, and to a lesser extent because of Abramovich, I think that the language around the football has changed. The way that we view our own league has changed. And no offense, but actually, I blame 99% of that on the Yanks that have turned up in English football, right? And and again, like, the thing that bothers me the most is that they're vultures, they're speculators, right? They've arrived. I mean, John Henry bought Liverpool when it was a distressed asset. Like, literally, it was a distressed asset that was going to go into administration, right? And they bought it off the courts for cheap. I mean, how is that dude crying about a level playing field when he paid $100 million or $200 million for a football franchise that is now worth billions? And yet he still wants an added advantage. What is the added advantage he wants? He wants nobody else to be able to come and spend shitloads of money to invest in another club. And they wrap it all up in this idea, and it's so much of it is in the language, financial fair play. Like, just that phrase, come on. Like, go and talk to supporters of clubs at the bottom of the league, right? Do they think it's fair that their owners are not allowed to invest, or they're limited in what they can invest year on year?
It's anti-capitalist.
Sorry, I'm ranting now, and I'm not saying that, like, capitalism is like the answer. I'm just saying that capitalism is a reality, and in English football, it's like they're like this. They're like, I'm not looking at capitalism. I'm not looking at capitalism. Financial fair play. Financial fair play. It's not fair. It's not a level playing field.
Yeah, the Barclays Premier League and all these fan fest events in America, and it helps me understand the sentiment where Brits want less Americanism in their football. They want to kind of keep it the sport that it was. It's too far gone, unfortunately, and trying to figure out how and what to appreciate is becoming, I guess, more difficult for them. I do want to stay in our, I guess, the whole city football group as a whole, but talk specifically about our academy team, because our crosstown rivals get credit too much for their use of academy products historically. Like people are losing their minds about Garnacho. How important is that uh, the academy products in the first team to the Mancunians? We hear it a lot, and it's pushed. We saw it in the match against Red Star with Bob and uh, Micah doing their thing. Yeah, doing their
Micah
thing.
Hamilton.
Rico younger than them, but he's technically the first team OG compared to him. We love seeing that, obviously from a skin tone standpoint, but it's exciting knowing that we're City fans, seeing young players growing up, especially because we these are fun ways for us to even tie ourselves to the club because we're now able to watch these young players grow up. We've been able to watch Phil Foden who become the man that he is now when he was just a scrawny little dude. I mean, he's still a scrawny dude, but an even scrawnier dude.
But hold on, Crunk. But beyond just watching Phil, we've also watched other players like a Cole who is no longer now with the team. And so when I wrote this question in here, my sentiment really was I hear all of the applause or the hoopla around United and their use of the academy historically. And sitting here in America, I want to see all of those academy kids from our academy come through and do that as well because that's what I've been ingrained with, right? The academy. What I want to know is from a perspective of a local Mancunian, what how important really is it to see those local players come through and and be a part of the first team?
I think, you know what? So I think there's a nuanced answer to this question because I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's black and white. I think obviously the starting point is everybody loves to see local or players who have come through the academy um, play for the first team. But what we have to understand also is that the academies of top clubs. Listen, Garnacho is not a Mancunian name. You feel me,
Right.
right? So, like, that is not. I, I mean this with the best will in the world. Like Brahim Diaz, it came through our academy, but if he was playing for City's first team, I wouldn't take the pride in Brahim Diaz that I take in Phil Foden or Rico Lewis
Okay.
because they're literally lads from Manchester. So for me, the idea of a local kid from the area getting into City's first team, that fucking matters to me. But the idea of some transplant from somebody else's academy that we bought when he was 16, who's not really a local kid, personally, I don't really care. It doesn't
So
really doesn't move the
Alavia doesn't feel the same as a Foden in your mind. That's what
no
you're saying ultimately.
no
Okay.
no. I just it won't. And I think that again, that's not to say that you don't love to see academy players playing in the first team. There is always a point of pride in that. But I'd be I'd be a hypocrite if I was like, yeah, like they're all Mancunians because it's like I used to look at players in the United Academy and just be like, I'm sorry, but you're not Mancunian. Like you're not if you come from, Uruguay or Spain or Germany or Holland and you join a Premier League academy at 16, you'll be a homegrown player for the homegrown rules and all that stuff. But for most of the people in the stands, you're the same as a dude that we paid money for.
I like to always think about the
Charlie.
La Liga teams and like compare them with Man City. So like you look at La Masia, right? Like that is the prototypical one of the best academies ever. La Masia, Ajax's, right? And I think their models are, of course, we want our homegrown Dutch and Spanish talent respectively, but we're also going to go find those gems. Look at Leo Messi, right? Like they go get him, he comes over, changes everything. I think City, especially with people who have come from, Barca and Cheeky and Pep, right? The vision is, hey, we obviously want the homegrown talent, but you got to go find the best available possible. And so I love the blend of like,
Sure.
yes, we have our stars who are from our area, born and raised, Manx, but we also can say, let's go get Oscar Bob from Norway, right? Let's go find Romeo Lavia. Let's go do that. And I feel like, obviously not being a Mancunian myself, but I feel like the blend is perfect because you get your guys who are your guys from the same streets, same upbringing, but you also have just young players to watch for years and years. So I get why like the attachment isn't the same, but it is pretty cool to say, at the end of that match, the Red Star, there were 5 academy prospects on the pitch. It's a beautiful thing to
For
watch. And
sure.
right now, I don't think any other club in Premier League can even get close to what we produce. If you look at any of it.
No way, bro. It's something. The question that Tarek asked is really interesting because I talked about this on a podcast this week, and that is the idea that, again, because it's City, nobody talks about it. The footprint of the CFA in the top divisions around Europe right now is crazy, man. Like, the, Issa Kabore is probably Luton's best
Yep.
player.
Yep.
Cole Palmer is probably Chelsea's best player. Brahim Diaz. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti. I'd forgotten Brahim was at Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti the other day is talking about Brahim assisting Jude Bellingham. It's just like the footprint
Frimpong, Germany,
endless,
yeah.
goes on and on. Yeah,
Garcia doing
exactly.
his thing at
Frimpong, another
Girona.
one, bro. But you know what? It goes deeper.
Yeah.
Kieran Trippier,
Uh-huh.
City Academy player. Yeah, like the kids at
Oh
the
yeah,
kids at
Bazunu,
Southampton
yeah.
that are still there. Bazunu, the
Yeah,
goalkeeper
yeah.
there, like just like right across. Carlos Borges at Ajax. There's how many City Academy players are at Dortmund right now? It's just the footprint is crazy, and people don't talk about it because it's City, but also because
hmm
City are not romantic. So one of the great things that the British media have done is that they've perfectly villainized City to the point where there is no such thing as a feel-good story out of Man City. It doesn't exist. Like the nearest thing we've had to a feel-good story in the last 5 years is signing Jack Grealish, simply because the British media and general public was so in love with Grealish that when we signed him, there was a kind of
Good for him.
general
Yeah.
like, oh, that feels good. Jack Grealish plays for Man City now. That's it. Other than that, we want a fucking treble. Yeah. Sorry, ain't nobody talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. And it's like, we talk about money in the most general sense. Yeah. All the way through Guardiola's era, they've talked about money in the most general sense. Why? Because you can't talk about it specifically. Like, specifically point at a player that City signed before Jack Grealish, that when City signed him, everybody went, oh my God, they've signed like the it just doesn't happen. When City signed Kyle Walker, everybody went, whoa, that much money, he's not that good. Do you know what I mean? When they signed Bernardo
Raheem,
Silva, everybody was like, who? When they signed Gundogan, everybody was like, he's injured. Why are you signing a dude who's injured? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's never been a City sign that has been like, Kevin De Bruyne was the 40
Chelsea
million
reject.
pound reject. Exactly. The 50 million pound reject, they called it. Like, there's countless stories. When they signed Ruben Diaz, Jamie Carragher went on Sky and went, if this signing doesn't work out, Guardiola's going to be gone at the end of the season, right? Just the desperation to talk City down and to frame everything through very, very narrow viewfinders it's why the City community in particular needs a healthy fan media culture, because there is no mainstream media that caters for City fans.
The other thing that I'll add, just to kind of close that whole conversation, is you talked about how the conversation around money and you looked at all of the players. We just named off the top of your head, you named off probably 10 to 15 players that are thriving at major clubs across Europe. Where did all that was money that came into City for the most part, and so when people say, oh, it's the Sheikh funding, no, it's our academy in many ways helping to fund everything else that we're doing, along with our proceeds from winning trophies and all this other stuff, right? So we're getting all this money coming into the club that doesn't have anything to do with the Sheikh or Dubai or anywhere else, right? It's just simply all a matter of we are self-sustaining and we're generating this income now that effectively takes away that argument if we're having a intellectually honest conversation. But of course, we're not.
Exactly, and I think that again, I think that part of the thing is that for a lot of people, that's not romantic, which I completely understand. Right? I understand the idea that it's not romantic to say the owners have built one of the best youth academies in the world so that they can turn a profit and then use that profit to fund the first team. It's not romantic, but it's fucking brilliant business. And that's where I get annoyed, is like the intellectuals talking about football at the Athletic and places like that. They should be saying that's brilliant. City's owners have not thrown money down a toilet and flushed it. On the contrary, they've literally built something that is completely self-sustaining. Like, what will happen one day, I imagine, is that Silver Lake or somebody like that will buy City, simply because it'll reach a valuation point where they'll make an offer, or at least the City's owners will sell like a big percentage of the club. And I think that in that moment, people will then try and begin to legitimize what City are doing. But whilst Sheikh Mansour stays involved in the club, I don't think anybody is ever going to want to have an intellectually honest conversation about his investment.
Great, great standpoint. Point. So we can. I want to talk about Grealish. Brought him up, and there's a nice question in here. I don't know whose it is, but it is thoughts on Grealish as more of an 8-10 than a winger.
That was mine.
Whose question
And
is
so
that?
my opinion was like, I think we kind of saw it yesterday in the match, right? Where when Grealish gets more central, can he have even higher impact? Because as we've seen, there's a huge contrast with his skill set compared to Doku's. Right? We know Doku is a tried and tried winger. You would never put him central because of what he can do 1v1, both ways, byline, inside. And so my question is like, as Pep did yesterday, is that the way to maximize his attack? If you have Jack and Phil as eights, and in the same model you used to have Kevin and Silva, and then you let Doku do his thing on the wing. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I would love to see that, because I don't think that Jack's best position is the left wing. I think that he would be. Actually, I'm surprised. Guardiola got asked that question this week, and even his answer was just a little bit like, he was like, "Yeah, he's like a traditional number 10," and it's almost like he's saying, "Yeah, but he's not really an 8. He's not really a centre midfield player." And my thing is just like, give him a go. I mean, you're like, yesterday's a great example of a game where, in a different world where you have more fit players, yeah, you can play Grealish and Bernardo as 8s, and you can play Phil on the right, and you can play Doku on the left, or you know, there's a way to put a team together where you can use Jack and Bernardo, or Jack and Phil, or Jack and Kovacic as 8s, and I'm really surprised that Guardiola hasn't tried that. And actually, going all the way back to when we signed Grealish, I remember at the time not really understanding why we were signing him, unless we were signing him to play in centre midfield. Because I was kind of looking at it and going, he's not a winger in a City team. He's just not got, I don't think he's got the skill set for that. But as an 8, I think he'd be incredible. And It's just, yeah, I would love to see it, but I'm going to be really honest with you, Charlie. I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm.
I Pep is such a idiosyncratic manager, coach, and his kind of way of thinking is so refined and so elevated in comparison to us fucking idiots who just talk about football that like he will have his reasons, and I just don't see it happening.
Mm. Yeah, no, I feel that. I like that I've been able to, because I thought that was Sharpies, and the previous one I was pretty sure it was Terry. So I've been able to guess. In the first one, that might have been Lando's. I didn't put any questions in here. Um, I mean, we've been asking your mindset on things. You got anything for us, or anything you want to
Yeah,
think of?
definitely. Like, actually, like the big thing that I'm interested in is I've been having like a kind of an existential conversation with myself about the relative success of City under Guardiola and how that how do I feel right now in this moment where it feels like a season something isn't quite right, things haven't quite fit right, yeah? What I'm interested in is how what's the line between anger, disappointment, and it's cool we won the treble last season. Like where do you find yourselves as supporters? Because I just very briefly, strangely enough, I think in and around Manchester, everybody that I know, or most of the people that I know, are fucking angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether, because I don't live in Manchester anymore, I wonder whether it's like a local thing, because it is really that idea of you're in town, you just every day is like a perpetual reminder of your football team, and whether that's what makes the needle go so strong when you have bad results. So I'll start with you, Tarek. Like, where do you land on? Let's say this season we finish fourth. Yeah. Are you like fire everybody, sack everybody, start again?
Definitely not. And this is interesting conversation because um, I think earlier, maybe it was late last season. I don't know, but we were kind of posting about the idea that maybe it was the start of this season, what we were expecting, our expectations for the season, and we got a lot of hate. I felt that was coming from Europe because we were using the term we expect, to say, well, I expect 2 trophies or I expect 3 trophies. And what we were saying was, we look at our squad, we look at everybody else, well, this is what we think will happen. This is kind of what our
Yeah.
expectations are. And there was a lot of hate because we used the word expect, and they were kind of framing it around the idea that, hey, we look at Man U supporters or Liverpool supporters, Arsenal supporters, whatever, and how they've kind of become entitled, where it's ours, it's our divine right, if you will, to win these trophies. And that's not what we were saying at all. And I almost question, when I see the responses of folks on social media nowadays, because we're in a down patch, I almost question, are we becoming that, where, if one thing doesn't happen great, all of a sudden the whole world is falling apart? And so for me to answer your question, no. For me, even if we ended up fourth, I would be very disappointed, because I feel like our squad as a whole is big enough, strong enough. As a club, we should be winning trophies. We shouldn't be coming in fourth. That would be my expectation. But I also understand that what we have done is so hard to do, and I think it almost minimizes the value of what we've done, to just like, oh well, if we don't win it again, then it's, fire Pep. No, the fact that we've won 3 in a row and we've won a treble, that we are like making that, we're minimizing how hard that was to accomplish when we say, well, if we don't win 4, we fire everybody. No, that was an amazing accomplishment that you may never see again. Or look how long it's been since there were 3 in a row with Sir Alex Ferguson. So the fact that we are going to be in the conversation to maybe get 4 that no one else in top flight British football has done, that would be amazing. So, yes, I would absolutely be disappointed. I am disappointed with where we have been these last couple weeks. In the moment, certain situations make me angry. I'm like, oh, we talked about Walker. It made me angry yesterday when I was watching the game. And my pod brothers, they know I'm the old guy on the show, right? I'm level headed. I'm just like whatever. I'm a dad. I've dealt with all kind of stuff, right? This is whatever. But there are moments where it drove me batty and made me angry. And so I think in moments, yes, I get angry, but overall, it would just simply be disappointment. But then I would say, okay, we move and we go again. Let's see what Pep is going to do, how he's going to rotate the squad, who he's going to bring in, who's going to get rid of. I'm actually looking forward to January to see if we're going to respond in the market. So I just look at it as it's disappointing, but it just sets the stage for what we do next and how we bounce back from it. What about
Bro,
you
guys? Can
Oh,
I say very quickly what you just said then is the smartest thing I've heard about City's success in a really long time. The bit where you said, by expecting, we minimize the achievements. I've never heard it framed like that, and that's brilliant. That's literally
That's why he's here.
that's literally the
he's our gem.
thing that
He
we need
drops
to
them.
tell everybody, tell each other all the time is, yo, if we wake up expecting that we slap everybody and we win the league with 100 points, well, then that minimizes everything that we've achieved. It assumes that we're so much better.
Yep.
Every player is so much better. And it's so easy for City that any downgrade on that is just pure failure. And that should, yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to say that was a brilliant way of framing
and if you
it.
think about the path that we had to try to get to the outcome that we now know has happened, there were moments where it could easily have gone a different way. And that's the same thing that happened in the prior years, right? Where we're up against a Tottenham and the calls just don't go our way. And, we should have that Champions League. We get the one against Chelsea. We should have had another Champions League, right? But one moment is all it takes. So if Gundo doesn't come on and score, if all the people who have had game-winning situations that happen along the way, if those things go just slightly different, the outcome doesn't happen that way. It's a collection of moments that were incredible, and I don't want to take away from that. I just don't. So I just think that, yeah, I want to see us win again. I hope that we can. I think we have a squad to do it. But it's how we're going to respond in these moments. And in my opinion, to this point, what we've seen hasn't been what we saw last year or the year before. And so if we're going to win it, it's going to be from now to the end of the season. There's going to be moment here, moment there. It's going to be player here, player there that are collectively going to say, you know what? We're going to go out and we're going to win it again. And so let's just see what they can do. Charlie, what are you going to say?
You brought up 3 categories at the beginning of your question. You said anger, disappointment, we won the treble. And because I think in numbers, I think percentages, right? Like my anger is probably, let's say 10%. And that's just on match day. Like with the results, the goals that go in, the defensive mistake, you harp on Kyle Walker. I can give you as many things about Ruben Diaz, right? Like we have our things that piss us off. Disappointment, I would say that's even lower. It's like maybe 5% because these are ebb and flow things. It's early in the season. We still have not hit the midway point of the Premier League season. We just got out of the group stage of Champions League. Like the season's not over until May. There's so much time left. So I feel like most of mine, that's 85%, is like we won the treble / we still have Pep in the best squad in the world. And if you look at any metric, any, ranking, any whatever, City's number 1. Like the numbers don't lie. And when you also take into account the facts of, we played an entire half of the season without Kevin De Bruyne. We haven't had John Stones, for more than 5 games in a row. Rodri's been on his, like, I'm a bad boy now stage. Like, there are so many things that can say, I'm sorry, and we're replacing Gundo and Mahrez as, like, 2 stalwarts in our midfield and forward line. things take time, and our bad season is we're now, because Arsenal just won 6 points off the top. Okay, like I will always take the high ground because we are the best. If this is April and let's say we were in seventh, then I'd be like, what the hell? Like, Pep, come on, man, we got to be top four. We don't miss Champions League. But until we're at risk of losing, like you said earlier, right, like that Champions League spot and keeping that place as a solid top four team, I'm good. And now I feel like we've won so many Premier Leagues. I can say to friends, "Oh my God, go ahead and get one, Arsenal." I said this to a guy on a lot on the lit stream. I was like, "You have one. You deserve it. Have a great time. You haven't had one in what 20 years?
Yeah, for
I want a
sure.
back-to-back Champions League. Like I can be picky as a
Yeah.
fan and say, you know what? Give me the Champions League FA double. Never done that before. Let's do it. Like so. This is where my joy comes from, in that you can't tell me anything as a City supporter. Like my club is better than yours, and you hope to have a morsel of the success we've had. Like that's what it comes down to. So I'm a cocky
Yeah.
supporter. So I don't get angry or disappointed. We're the best.
Kronk.
Yeah. Uh, I'm gonna. We're all in alignment in mindset, but how we come in that alignment is different, which I very much love about our show. At, at the end of the previous season, we had won the treble, and I came in and I asked all of us. I'm always forward thinking. How are we going to see next season? And we all agreed that it's vibes. We're thrilled that we won the treble. We know that there's going to be a change up. 2 seasons ago, I actually wanted Pep to strip the team. I wanted to just get rid of Gundo, Mahrez, let's start all this stuff over. Naturally, if that would have happened, we probably wouldn't have gotten the treble. So I'm thankful they're the smart ones who are doing the big decisions. Calma. I've just been trying to be vibes as much as this season. You hear it from us. We feel this way, and we are on wax every week, being like, relax. Yes, we're in the moment. We're getting at our players. We're getting at their bad play. Before we capped on, I said, honestly, this all feels like a pattern. It feels they're just repeating the same silly mistakes, which feels fixable, should be fixable with what our club has been doing year after year. It has gotten fixed. Even if you want to look at it, last year before Pep changed the formation and we went all center back, real big in the back. That took some time. That took a process. That was weird to us. That whole formation that Pep was bringing out, we're like, what is this? Then look at the treble winning. Same thing right now. He's changing up to fit what we have in the club. That's going to take some time. What I have really been enjoying about the season is watching the change. That when Kyle Walker was doing great the first few games, seeing Pep being able to add layers to his game. Has it now gotten stagnant and people seem to know what he's going to do and he's lacking creativity? Yes. But I love watching that. With the players like Nunez, even Kovacic, how he's going to fit in. I'm enjoying watching these stories in the moment. The Champions League match with the 5 young players on at one time. Tarek said it. Because our expectations are grand and should rightfully are okay that we have these expectations, we are missing out in beautiful moments, great stories, chances for us to just be to we should be more joyful because it angers everybody else so much. And instead, we're bickering at each other, comparing Nunez and Kovacic to Gundogan and Mahrez, which is like never going to be fair. It's just very tough that in a season where I feel we should be waving our flags and singing all the songs, we're coming off as the spoiled little bullies, and I'm not enjoying that.
Yeah, but I do think like so. I think that I think again, like I think there is a nuanced conversation to be had because
Of course.
the reality is that Guardiola has set the standards that he now has to live up to. The squad and the players have set the standards that they have to live up to. So whilst I completely understand what you mean about the kind of, this is when we should get the flags out. After you win the treble, the following season, you should get the flags out. I do also think that we've seen some shit recently where it's like, that's not acceptable. Like, with the standards are the standards, right? And if you can't meet the standards, then somebody's going to the bench, somebody's getting sold, somebody's, like, and actually, when we talk about standards, I include Guardiola and I include the guys who run the football club. You all have set the standards that you've set, and now you all have to live up to those standards. And I would argue that since the treble, nobody has lived up to the standards that they've set. That bothers me, because it means that there's been, on some level, not just individual failure, but a kind of collective failure after the treble. And actually, it's almost like it began before the treble. Like the roots of what's happening right now. Shall I go deep into very quickly what I think is happening right now?
If you're going where I think you're going, I'm totally down. Yes.
Like the roots of what's happening right now, I think is built into a little bit the DNA of the modern city. So the city in the Abu Dhabi era, they are incredibly loyal to players, like insanely loyal. And what that means is, if you've got a contract, they will honor that contract forever. And if you're a winner, they will get off. Like Raheem Sterling got offered a new contract. Gabriel Jesus got offered a new contract. We were all sat there going, sell them, right? The club were going, we want you to sign again. So, and I think that whilst I understand why they do that, I think that there's a little bit of a double-edged sword within this, or a little bit of a contradiction. And the contradiction is this. So you want players to honor their contracts, and you want to reward success. But then you've built in some hard and fast rules. So like after 30, nobody gets a long contract. Fine.
The Bayern rule.
Yeah, nobody gets a long contract after 30. But then, so 18 months ago, the end of the 21-22 season, Ilkay Gundogan is on the bench as much as he's playing. And his contract is up in 12 months, right? The last game of the season against Villa, he doesn't start the game. He comes on and he changes the game, right? You have to make a decision as a football club about what you're doing. And if your decision is, we want to keep Gundo, well, then you give him what he wants. You shut up with your rules and you give him what he wants. It's fine. And everybody move. You built the thing. But what you don't do is you don't get smart. You don't go, well, you know what? He's got a year left on his contract. He's happy to stay for another year. We're happy to keep him for another year. We'll revisit this later. Well, okay. But then you've got to be mindful of what's about to unfold. And then the manager, by October, is going, Gundo's playing every game. He's that good and that important. And Gundo, he's playing for a contract. Whether it be at City or at the next club, he's playing for a contract. So his game is at that level. So you're seeing the fruit of what Gundo can do when he's playing at his level on the pitch. What are you doing? You are literally sleepwalking into the summer. And you're going because you have this, like, again, it's like a DNA thing. So City are really uber respectful. One of the things that is very, really cool is that players, when they leave City, what they talk about is, wow, behind the scenes, holy shit, the way we get treated, unbelievable. The amount of respect we get, the way the club is run, everything is like to a T. Great. But ultimately, it's still a career. So if Gundogan is in the last 6 months of his contract and he's not signed a new contract, you cannot plan for the summer going, he'll sign a new deal. Yeah? You can't do that. And then the kind of the dance of like, well, we don't know if he's going to sign a new deal, so we don't know who we're signing. We're going to sign Kovacic because he's cheap, and we line that shit up, and then everything else we'll see. Well, you saw what happened. The season ended. You literally, the day after the Champions League, the club briefed the local newspapers and said Gundogan's going to sign a new deal. The vibes are good. 2 weeks later, he's in Barcelona holding a show. So that means that as a club, you didn't know what was happening and you were overconfident. Yeah. And so for me, that was an issue, right? Mahrez, 32, 31, 32 years old, right? They didn't want to sell him this summer. Why? Because they weren't prepared for that. He's 32 years old. You should be fucking prepared for him leaving. In fact, his replacement should be sitting on the bench already. And that's my issue, is Guardiola might want a small squad, but as a people who manage the football club, you have to be cognizant of the entirety of the situation. And that means that you've got to be like Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne's replacement should already be at Man City. Simple. Mm-hmm. He's 32 years old. His replacement should already be at Man City. And that's what I mean about, I started this by saying the roots of some of the issues are in the DNA of the football club. It's in the DNA of the modern Man City to not replace players whilst they're still there. It's in the DNA of Man City to allow players to run their contracts down. It's in the DNA of City not to force players out. This is a fucking ruthless business. There are times to be good and be nice, but there are also times to be ruthless. And one of the reasons we can operate the way in which we operate is because Pep Guardiola is our X factor. We got Pep, so it's cool. Whatever happens, Pep will fix it. But I don't like that. I don't think that's fair on Pep. I don't think that in the medium term, that's smart business. I think that you have to be a little bit more, like I've said this a few times. Somebody needs to take the decision out of Pep's hands and go, you know what, Pep? Here's 2 ready-made world-class players. Sorry, now you can only pick 11 on a match day. I'm sorry, bro. You're going to upset 4 of them. I'm sorry, bro. But you know what? If he gets injured and he gets injured, you're going to love me because you got those guys and you trust them. And I think that that's where and again, there's this weird thing of like, we're accused of spending more money than everybody else. We try so hard to be the opposite of what people say we are without realizing outside of the bubble, nobody gives a shit, bro. You can be the best run football club on the planet. Nobody's patting you on the back. You will always be the Death Star. You'll always be Darth Vader. Yep. You'll always be the enemy. So once in a while, act like the enemy. Yeah, act like the enemy. And quite frankly, it fucking befuddles me that the one time they acted like the enemy was for Jack Grealish. And that's not a slight on Grealish. Don't get me wrong, right? It's not me slacking Grealish off. It's me going, really? You're going to break like insane record and spend $100 million on a player? And it's a dude that's got 12 career goals? Guys, what are you doing? Like,
so no,
sorry,
I love it. And I want to here's the thing, right? We can all have different opinions. So what I'm about to say is counter to Ahsan, but it's not saying Ahsan's wrong. I just see it from a different vantage point. So you take the summer, as you mentioned, like in the standards and the DNA. I would say this: Cole Palmer was the replacement for Mahrez. Could they foresee that Chelsea would come after him with an offer we literally could not refuse, and that and he wanted to go because of Pep's playing style and not guaranteeing playing time? I don't think we foresaw it. I think we said, hey, Riyad can go. We get an amazing transfer deal for an aging winger. And we have Cole who's ready. Like he is tried and true to be a right winger. I think that was the plan. Okay.
No, they knew.
So I'm just saying from my vantage point.
No, they knew.
Got you.
They knew he was going. Yeah, no. So at the end of last season, Palmer and his people told City bluntly,
Okay.
"We
So
want
fair.
you,"
So that's
right?
new information for me, got you.
And then and what City do generally is they'll say to the players, "If you want to go,
Mm-hmm.
tell Pep. You tell Pep you want to go, and you get your agent to bring an offer. We'll never stand in your way. It's cool. You can go." And again, they banked on the idea that, well, Riyadh's going, so now it'll be really easy to convince Palmer to stay. But there's a problem with that. Footballers are human beings. And for me, something happened last season, which, again, it's kind of where I can see the flaws sometimes in the way that Pep can be. So Pep is really big on seniority. So what Guardiola would rather do is put a senior player out of position than take a young player and play him in his natural position, right? Fine. Managers, they live and die by the decisions that they make. But last season, whenever Bernardo Silva wasn't on the right wing or Phil Foden wasn't on the right wing, Riyad Mahrez was on the right wing, not Cole Palmer. How many games did Cole Palmer? How many games in Cole Palmer's Man City career? How many games did he get given on the right wing? And actually, look at the treatment of Palmer in the 2 years that he's around the first team. He plays left wing, he plays centre mid, he plays number 10, he plays false nine, he plays every fucking position except for the position that he's excelled in the EDS. Now, that's fine. You can do that with a young player. But if that young player's got talent and he doesn't like that and he's got an ego, and Palmer had an ego, he'll go, "It's cool, bro, I'm out of here. Somebody else wants me." And they're going to pay this money. And because they pay this money, they're going to play me in my best position. And they're going to treat me with the respect of a guy that they paid that money for. And that's normal. Like Phil Foden gets treated differently to Julian Alvarez because Phil Foden came through the academy and he's a City fan. Julian Alvarez came from River Plate, had to uproot his life at 21, 22 years old, come from Argentina, World Cup winner, all the hype. Yeah. He gets treated differently to Phil. They look after Julian, you know. Julian's got to play every week because he, you know, if you don't play him, then he'll leave because, well, he could play for Real Madrid.
I'm actually really happy you mentioned that, Hassan, because I'm starting to hear that sentiment a lot about the way Phil Foden's being treated, and I really didn't think anything about it. It was a couple of games ago when Foden was subbed off after he was really our best offensive threat when Pep was playing all our defenders as midfielders and stuff like that. And then we immediately gave up all the goals. People were saying that that was disrespectful to Foden. Foden didn't really acknowledge Pep
Listen,
when he was subbed off.
I'll tell you what's disrespectful to Foden. That Guardiola has spent 2 years saying that Phil Foden can't play centrally because the amount of awareness that you need to play in centre midfield is at such a high level, right? Fine. But then when the dude comes from Argentina and he's not got the first touch of a City player and he's not got the technical level of a City player and you're playing him in the middle and Phil Foden's on the right wing, that's disrespectful. Sorry. Sorry, Pep. I love you, but that's disrespectful. Phil Foden's technically at a much higher level than Julian Alvarez. And that's not to slight Alvarez in any way, shape, or form. That's just facts, bro. Right? Purely from a skill set point of view, Foden's at a much higher level. He's much more suited to playing centrally than Alvarez is. And yet, Foden's played right wing and Alvarez played centrally. You know why that is? Because Alvarez can't play on the right wing.
Yeah, he's not a winger. Yeah.
At all. Like, not at all. Right? He's not a winger. But he's not a number 8 either. But you're playing him as a number 8. Whilst the best 8 in the squad when Kevin De Bruyne's not around is on the right wing. That's not respectful.
I wanted to finish my point from earlier. Because I felt like in the transfer window, there were plans and then there were like reactions, right? And so if you want to look at the Declan Rice pursuit as like reactionary, I think you're right. But I also think that was City saying, hey, we're willing to spend the money. Rice chooses Arsenal. I think if you go to the Doku signing, which is for me the signing of the summer, Like that is truly being able to scout and say, hey, this guy is ready for the Premier League and nobody else sees it. We're going to go get him. The Vardiol signing, I feel like obviously was a swap for Laporte, right? Like you lose Laporte, you know he's out. You bring in Vardiol younger, bigger, faster, whatever. We can get that spot ready. I think the thing that hurt City the most is the betting scandal for Paquetá. Because if that betting scandal doesn't happen, the West Ham transfer was going to go through. He was ready to leave. And then you have
Yeah.
that ready-made, he's better than Nunez, right? We know that. You have that ready-made player who is there to fill Kevin's boots, or at least position, while Kevin recovers. And I think that's the link that hurt us the most. But I also feel like, with that being said, we are still already now linked with, Valentin Barco's supposed to be linked to us. We already had the German links to Musiala and Wirtz. So, I feel like City is seeing the error of their ways, as you said. And by next summer, I think the squad will be ready made for the transition of De Bruyne out, Bernardo leaving. I feel like things are getting almost, the puzzle pieces are almost finished to where you can see. I think the only place we haven't responded is finding a new right back heir apparent. And that's why Kyle Walker was so valuable to Pep, because he's the only natural first team right back on the squad. And I think that's the one area where I feel like we have to fix it, in my opinion.
Well, I love Issa Kabore. I'd bring him back.
I was going to ask about him.
I love him. I think he's been Luton's best player. And it's wild that he's at Luton. Really, it's wild. He should be in the City squad. I don't think Rico Lewis is a right back with the best will in the world. I think in the Premier League, I think that he's not quite athletic and fast enough in fullback areas. In terms of Paquetá, I completely agree that was a big blow, but actually the dumb shit, right? If I can call it dumb shit, the dumb shit is you chase Bellingham for 6 months. You should already have the next guy lined up. So you should know that the day that we find out that Jude Bellingham doesn't want to come to us, the next day we pull the trigger on this guy, right? That's how you do it. What you don't do is wait until the mid-end of summer and get yourselves involved in some kind of auction for Rice, or, going to West Ham for Paquetá after you've lost out on Rice and on Bellingham, and just you're from an organizational standpoint, and City have done this in the past, right? From an organizational standpoint, I think they underestimated the heat in the market last summer. I think they underestimated the appetite for the clubs around them to go hard and go big, right? I think that it's wild to me that Alexis McAllister plays for Liverpool and Mateus Nunes plays for Man City. Actually, in any other world, in a parallel universe, those transfers are completely inversed, because McAllister is a Pep player all day long, and Nunes is a Klopp player all day long. How are we not at the table for Alexis McAllister in February when everybody is at the table for him? I don't know if you remember, a very reputable Argentinian journalist in February wrote a story where she said that it's interesting that every top 6 club in England, except for Manchester City, has called Alexis McAllister's father about Alexis. And I remember reading that and thinking, if ever there's an agent saying, hey, Pep, call me, babe, that's it, yeah? When the press are going, hey, it's weird, Pep's not called yet, right? It's like, you think, make that call. They didn't make that call. I think they were overconfident with Bellingham. I think they'd get him. I don't think they really had a backup plan for Bellingham. I think they were scrambling after Bellingham. I think Declan Rice, I've revised my opinion. I was probably closer to you, Charlie, in that I felt that he always wanted to go to Arsenal. But hearing Guardiola's comment last week in the press conference about it's such a random thing after the Champions League game when they were like, you've topped the group, you've won 6 games out of 6. It's like, like such a big deal. You're really proud of that. And he was like, Ferran will be very happy for his budget, right? And I'm like, why is bro taking shots at Soriano after a Champions League game? What is that about? I think I know what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear to me that I personally think what's happened there is that Rice was just waiting for somebody to pay the money. And I think that Guardiola obviously said, pay the money. And they went,
Is Grealish the
sorry,
only triple-digit signing?
And
Like he's the only $100 million player that they signed. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. 100%. And I got a great story for you because it's like these things are like we can say that about Rice, but Soriano will have his examples of when he's right. And I got a great one for you. So when they were on tour in Southeast Asia, the summer that Harry Maguire moves to Man United, right? There's a very famous story of Guardiola having a very public argument with Soriano in the hotel about Harry Maguire because Guardiola's like, pay the money. And Soriano's like, he's not worth it. We're not paying the money. And Pep was fucking furious about that. Like, when Guardiola's furious when Manel Estiarte is talking to journalists. When Manel is told you can go and say this to somebody, then Pep's pissed, right? Because he's letting his man do the speaking. So you never know with these things whether it's right or it's wrong. Some you get right, some you get wrong. But I think that the root of it is looking at the age of Kev, looking at the risk with Gundo's contract. We've not really talked about Bernardo. Bernardo would have left. If Barcelona had put the money on the table, he'd have left. Yeah? He's on record as saying this, even the Saudi Arabia thing, he had an offer and it was a difficult decision for him. We could have gone into the season having lost Gundo and Bernardo. And we'd have signed Nunez and Kovacic. They definitely this summer they've underestimated the competition in the market. They've underestimated the importance.
I love going after the big fish though, because we went after Holland, right? Everybody was thinking like Holland's going to go to Madrid. He like they're a bigger club, bigger brand. Is he going to come home to City? Like we pursued him for months on end. We finally got it after going after Hurricane, right? Like so, City has gone big fish hunting and missed, but they've also hit. And I think the Bellingham pursuit for me, I was all in. I think we see what he is. He is a generational talent, the best young player in England, in my opinion. Love Phil, love Saka. I think he's the best. But like in that position we need. And if you lose out, then you have to like switch.
I'm off. I need to go now. I need to go now. The dude just said that Bellingham's better than Foden, so that's my cue to leave this stream fucking immediately. I didn't realize that I'd accidentally walked into a Los Blancos stream.
Hey, we actually call them Los Negros now because
that's what they
have a black ass flag.
Every position. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, so Phil Bellingham right up there, right? But you go after the big guy. And so I think, yes, if you go after somebody and you lose out, it does change all the organizational plans. But I love that pursuit. I love saying, hey, we are so great now. We're not just going to settle. We're going to go up and stay at the 5-star recruit, if you will.
But I think what Ahsan said was right, though. It's not just about going after Bellingham or whoever, because we all think we should have done that. But it's about not having that immediate pivot, that immediate response ready to go. Having that, what you want to call it, it's warm already. And maybe it's not hot yet, but you've kept it warm all the way through. And so the moment it doesn't happen, you just immediately pivot. Boom, let's go. Let's sign it.
Exactly. And also, like, the other thing, and I think that this is where I slightly differ in the big fish thing. Honestly, I don't give a shit. Big fish, small fish, it's not important for me. What's important are the characteristics of the players. And I think the thing was losing Gundo this summer, you're looking at it and you're going, he played so much football and he was so impactful. You're going to have to bring the skill set in. You have to bring the skill set in. And what's more annoying than anything is you bought players who are the literal opposite of Gundo. Kovacic and Nunes do not have
Of course
the
not.
skill set of Ilkay Gundogan. Not in a billion years. And Alexis McAllister did fine. He's gone to Liverpool. I am 99% sure that they've got a list of players with that skill set that they could go out and buy. And I think that, again, this becomes about like trying to be too smart, too clever, being too complacent in terms of, Mendes clients, and, well, Nunes is there and he's easy and you can have him for 40 million or whatever. It's just like, it's, I don't know what it was, but it was shit to not replace those very particular characteristics.
Well, I feel like this is a brilliant spot. We'll just put a little bookend here for the next episode. We've been going. This is gonna be a beautiful episode. Lots of moments of I can clip up for this. This is gonna be yummy, yummy, yummy. I love it. As always, really do appreciate you, Ahsan, kicking it with us.
No, bro, I loved it. Thank you for having me. And whenever you want me back, I'm coming back. It's my kind of team. I got to be honest with you.
Thanks so much, man. So nice to finally meet.
Well, and I'm gonna be excited because
absolutely
we'll be in the middle of January, so hopefully we'll have some moves
for sure. In fact, we should do one start of January for the transfer window. But before you go, I can't leave you without asking one very important question. At the end of this season, you can have the Champions League or you can have the Premier League, but you can't have them both. Which one do you want more?
Champions League.
Tarek?
It's hard. If I could have one, I'm going to take the Premier League.
Where are you? Premier League?
My guy.
I need that fourth one.
Yeah, because the big thing for me is I want to do something nobody else has done in the history in English football. Yeah, and that is the Premier League. My feelings towards certain players are shaped solely by the fact that right now I'm looking at it and going, you're making a mountain out of a task that 4 weeks ago was not a mountain. Genuinely was not a mountain. With 20 minutes to go in every home game in the last month, the mountain was not a mountain. And yet you've contrived.
Has somebody else top flight in Britain won back-to-back like European titles, or like was it Liverpool?
Maybe not
not in Premier League,
maybe not in England.
Time frame though, right? Like nobody's.
Maybe Liverpool. I think maybe Liverpool won back-to-back European Cups. And wait, do I feel like did Forest?
Oh, that's what it is. The older stuff.
I don't know.
I got you.
But the point is,
got you.
Yeah.
The European
Cup. Yeah. In terms of 4 leagues, nobody's done that in the history.
Quadruple.
I'm not talking anymore.
The quadruple.
Right.
I keep trying to call it the quadruple, and everybody hates it, including all of my show bros.
I love it, bro. I'm with the quad. Let's do the quad.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Let's go.
All right, boys. I'm going to let you go.
I appreciate you. And Shady Gang, you know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang. Let's end this.